right, so welcome back to Foundations for Literacy. We've talked about the evidence base behind Foundations for Literacy, and we've looked at the curriculum materials. So now we're going to look at a few of the major components and how you would implement them in a classroom. The first are the sound concept stories. So the sound concept stories introduce the target sound in a very meaningful context. And these stories are used to teach letter-sound correspondence. So if I'm going to teach the letter-sound correspondence between the letter B and the sound B, the semantic association, the meaningful association that we make in the letter-sound story is that a boat makes the sound B, 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 B. And we have a little activity where the kids play with a tub and they fill it up with water and they put a toy boat and they push the toy boat around in the water and they make the sound of the letter B. They make the sound B, 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 B. And then the character Miss Giggle points out that the boat makes the same sound as the letter B. And so they learn to make this meaningful association between a boat making the sound B, B, B as it moves through the water and the letter B making the sound B, 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 just the same as the boat. And what you'll find is this semantic association, this meaningful association really makes the letter-sound correspondence salient to the children, and they start to remember them very, very quickly. And so when they go to decode words, more of their working memory moves towards sounding out the words and sounding out the sounds and bringing those sounds back to the word versus trying to figure out, well, what letter is this and what sound does it make? So there's a fluency and an automaticity there because there's a meaningful correspondence between the letter and the sound. All of the letter-sound stories, the sound concept stories, are followed by a corresponding language activity, and it's implemented in a plan, do, recall sequence. So if the children read about Pete putting a toy boat in the tub in the story, after they read about that in the story, they plan to do that in their classroom the next day. Then when the next day comes, there's the do. They actually do the same experience that the children in the story did. And then finally, the next day, they recall that experience. And so you have 3 days of experiences that really help the children to solidify the letter-sound correspondence. I'm going to show you a video of a teacher implementing a sound concept story in her school. I believe this is a preschool classroom with children who are 3 to 5 years of age.
Pete and Kate and Sue ran into Miss Giggle's house, and Pete said, "Look, look, our teacher gave us some prizes today." Gave us prizes today at school. And the children pulled out their race cars from their backpacks. They are at Miss Giggle's house. So Kate began to push her race car around the room, and she pretended to have a race, and she said "Rrr, rrr," as she pushed the car. And Miss Giggle said, "Let's all have a race," and she put a piece of tape down on the floor, and she said, "Put your cars here. This is where the race will start." And she put another piece of tape down on the floor and said, "This will be the finish line. The first car to the finish line wins the race." Yep. So Pete and Kate and Sue pushed their cars. Rrr, rrr. Sue's car was the first car to the finish line, and she said, "I win." I know. "Good job," said Miss Giggle. "When you pushed your cars, you said, 'Rrr, rrr.'" And the letter R, makes the R sound too. All right, so here's, Carter, no nose, honey. Here's the letter R, and it makes the sound. Watch Miss Myers, ready? Would you like a turn, Carter?
I did it.
Carter's going to have a turn. Ready, Carter? Here you go.
I got called.
Okay. Would you like a turn to go?
Oh, that called.
I'm
I'm a yellow card.
Carter.
All right, there you go.
My card.
All right, Albert. All right, Nikki's turn to say.
I will play card.
I know you do, sweetheart.
I will play card.
Okay. So what do we say? Thank you, Albert. We'll sing a song in a minute. Let's say it again. Ready? I can't. There we go. Let me hear Nikki. Good job, my friend.
Okay, so you watched the video of the letter sound correspondence story or the sound concept story. And then I talked about, prior to the video, the language experience activity, that plan, do, recall sequence. Well, the language experience activity, it provides a meaningful experience to practice the letter sound in isolation. It also strengthens the sound and the semantic association, and it helps children develop the vocabulary and the language that correspond to the experience. So in the next video, we're going to watch an example of a teacher implementing the language experience activity. And just to preface this, what's happened in this story is that Pete is outside with Kate and Sue, and Miss Giggle is hanging the laundry on a clothesline. And she hangs a sheet on the clothesline. And Pete is sort of running around and he's not paying attention to what he's doing, and he runs into the sheet. And so the sheet covers Pete, and when he runs up to Kate and Sue, they think he's a ghost. And so they make the sound guh, 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 guh. And Miss Giggle says, oh my goodness, you're making the sound that the letter G makes. And so they think about the fact that when somebody sees a ghost and it's scary and they say guh, 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 that's the same sound that the letter G makes. And so it really solidifies this very abstract letter-sound correspondence relationship because they've experienced a meaningful relationship as the ghost and the sound G and the letter G and the sound G. So let's watch this video.
Activity. So maybe that's where. Yeah, it was over here. You're right. You're right. But today, the ghost. Okay. Do you remember, Miss Giggle, what is she doing? She's hanging up the sheet. What is that?
Ghost.
That is a ghost? No, that is our sheet. Miss W hung it up the same as Miss Giggle. Yeah? Okay.
He's looking for his friend.
He went under the sheet, and what happened? He became a ghost?
Yes.
You remember?
Yeah, he will be. Here you go.
They thought, the girls, the two of them, they thought that Pete was a ghost. So what happened? How did they feel? Scared. They said g, g, g. Right? They didn't say the word ghost. They said
Why ghost?
g, g. Can you? Oh, maybe. Can you?
Can I be the goat?
Can you say g, g, g? Your turn.
Go.
G, g.
Go.
Your turn. Your turn. Okay. Then they realized it was not a ghost.
No.
Who was it? Was it a ghost?
Pete.
It was Pete. Was it a real ghost or a pretend ghost? Pretend. It was a pretend ghost. Okay. Let's see. Rylan, he is sitting so nicely. Crisscross. Quiet. Okay. Okay, hold on. If we see a ghost, we say g, g, g. Okay? So remember, g, g. Okay. Can you handle it? G, g. All right. Good job, Kumazi. G, 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 g. Woo! It's not a ghost. It's just Rylan. Was he a real ghost or pretend? Pretend. You okay? I was scared. Were you scared? Just a little bit scared. Were you scared? No? Why? Because you're not scared? If I saw a ghost, I'd be scared.
You.
Yeah, I would. Okay, Rylan, you go sit down. Thanks, son. All right. Good job, ghost. Was that fancy? Was that exciting? All right. Just walking along. It's a it's not a ghost. No, it's just Miss Mara. Whew.
Move your chair.
Were you scared?
No.
Okay, now let's talk about the code-based instruction that shows up in Foundations for Literacy. One of the major activities in Foundations is keyword blending, what we call make a word. And this develops children's ability to blend sounds so that they can read words. And so what we do is we'll have a picture, a visual of a word. So if you'll look at the cards on the screen, you'll see that there's a picture of Pete. And so before children actually start to read the text for Pete, we build the word using these sound concept images. So if you'll look at the first picture, there's a bowl of popcorn. And popcorn is used to represent the sound of the letter P, so p, p, p. If you'll look at the next image, you'll see a little girl sliding down a slide. And that's used to represent the long E sound. So she's going down the slide and she's saying E. And then if you look at the very last picture, you'll see a clock. And the clock is used to represent the sound of the letter T. So t, t, t. The hands on the clock make that sound when they tick around. So what we do is we say, okay, do you see this picture? What picture is this? And the children say Pete. And you say, very good, listen, listen, Pete, Pete. Let's see if we can make that word. And so we talk about what's the first sound in Pete? And the children will say p, 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 p. And so you'll place the picture of the bowl of popcorn to represent the sound for P. Then you'll say, okay, what's the next sound we hear in this word? P, E, P, E. And they'll say E. And so then you'll choose the corresponding picture, which is the child going down the slide. And then finally, the last sound in P, T, T, P, eat. So then you place the clock that represents the T in order in the way that the children would sound out the word Pete. And so first they learn to sound out the word based on the pictures. And this gives us a one-to-one correspondence so that if there are orthographies in the word they're trying to blend that have special spellings where there's not a one-to-one correspondence between the letter and the sound in the word. This clarifies all of that because there's one picture for every sound in the word. So we start out with the image. We build the word with the pictures that represent the sounds, and we practice blending without any graphemes. We just practice blending. Eat, Pete. And then as the children are able to move to text and to graphemes, we fade the pictures and they're able to blend using the text, using the print. So I'm going to show you a video later in the year of a teacher that's doing some word play with the letter sound images and the build a word activity.
Look, what are we going to do with this? What do we do with this? We're going to make some words. We're going to use our sounds.
I'm going to make a cake tomorrow.
Let me see. I'm going to try and do this first. Let's see. This word is cake. Amelia, sit up. I think if I put these together, that should be right. Let's see. I'll use a picture. Let's see. I'll sound this out. Lily, I think I got it. You ready? Okay. Bake.
No.
No? What's wrong?
It's fake.
That's not cake? What should we change? What would make it cake? What could we do?
This one.
Where should we put it? Okay. Let's try it.
Egg.
Abe. Cabe.
No.
What's wrong?
Egg. Cake.
Ah! You got it. Good job. Cake. You helped me. Thank you. I thought I had it. Okay, Armand, you ready? I want to make bake, so I would obviously... Lilia. It's Armand's turn, so we gotta listen. Armand. Okay, I've got bake, so if I was gonna do bake, I would definitely need these. Let's see. Let's sound it out. Lilia, we're gonna listen to Armand right now, okay? What's that first sound? A. B. Akaba.
No.
That's obviously an akaba.
No.
No?
No.
Oh no, what should I do? How could I make it? Bake. 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 Good job.
Yay, Armand.
Okay, let's see.
And finally, we have a video of reading connected text. So this is a video of what it looks like more towards the end of the year when children are able to read connected text in reading booklets, in reading practice games, in sentences of the week, and in function word activities. So all of this isolated word practice is transferred to connected text. Remember that phrasal language and that phrasal reading we were talking about? Well, Foundations moves children away from isolated words into connected text. So watch these videos for an example of that. All right, so it says, I see a
Hi.
note.
No.
I see a note. Very good. Who wants to read it first?
Me.
Okay. See
Note.
Whoa, did you hear her?
Yeah.
She read that. She said, I see a note. Note. I see a note. Your turn. All right, tell me this word again. Has. Has. Do you see has? Do you see it in that sentence? Is he right? Is he right? Is that has?
Yes.
Has. Is he right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's right. Good job. Let's see if we can read this sentence. Who wants to try first?
Me.
Okay, Daniel said me first, so I'm going to let him try.
Eat. Wait.
Very good. Pete.
Had a tie.
Very good. Pete has a tie. Let's see if he's right. Let's see if the picture matches. Is he right? Show them. Let them see. Let them see if you're right. Is that Pete?
Yeah.
Does Pete have a tie? That's right. You read the sentence. That was right. What's happening in your picture? Look at his picture. Show them your picture.
Pop.
Pup. What does Pup have?
Bone.
That's right. Show them. Show your friends. Pup has a bone. Okay, let's look at your picture.
Tie.
Pete has a tie.
A tie.
A tie on a what? A tie on a shoe?
A turd.
A tie on a box.
A bat.
She has a tie on a box. Okay, let me read this one. A bone. Bone. A bone on a box. Who has that picture? Who has a bone on a box? Me. I have that picture. I have that picture. Okay. How about you read this sentence?
Tie. No.
On
On.
box. A tie on a box. Is that her picture?
Yes.
Yes, very good. Okay, you read this one. Pete.
Pete has a top.
Wait, listen. Listen. I. Tie.
Tie.
Pete has a tie.
Tie. Tie.
Is that your picture?
No.
No. Who has Pete has a tie?
Me.
Oh, that's his picture. Okay. So, our takeaway message for Foundations for Literacy. It's imperative for teachers of the deaf to focus on both code-based and meaning-based emergent literacy skills so that they can support young DHH children's later reading development. You must include the 4 instructional principles in your teaching: explicit and intentional instruction, repeated practice, multimodal representations, and make things fun and motivating. And remember, Foundations for Literacy is the only evidence-based early literacy curriculum created specifically for deaf and hard of hearing students, and it will be available for the 2017-2018 school year. If you are interested in implementing Foundations or you have any questions about the videos you've seen today, please contact me at this email address. Online professional development and the full curriculum will be available to the public in the 2017-2018 school year. I hope you'll join me for the last session of my lecture series on strategic and interactive writing instruction. Hope to see you there.